Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to pick up where we left off and wrap up chapter one. And this is just going to be a brief introduction to evolution. We will cover this more in 182, but I did want to talk about the two types of evolution that we see on the planet. And they are vertical evolution and then what we call horizontal gene transfer. So with vertical evolution, basically this is going from parent to offspring, parent to offspring, parent to offspring, which means that any types of inheritable mutations can be passed along. And also we have the, from what Darwin observed, that there is a natural selection process that occurs based on adaptation to the environment. And then as you move along and you move down the line through vertical evolution, you can see changes in the lineage. And we have documentation and research, and we also have fossils and bone remains from our ancestors that show that, and not only in us, but in all other species on this planet. So with horizontal gene transfer, basically it is an exchange of genetic material, usually seen with prokaryotic organisms. There are multiple types that we'll be discussing later on. This is from one cell to another. This is not through the process of creating offspring, but it's where two, for example, different bacterial species will connect to one another and transfer their genetic information from one species to another. So when you see here, you can see the mother, quote unquote, cell, which will give rise to daughter cells, which will then give rise to offspring. You're going to be seeing the inheritable genetic material going from one generation to the next generation to the next generation. And that is vertical gene transfer, as opposed to the horizontal gene transfer, which is just one cell to another cell. We see that in bacterial species. Again, we'll be discussing this in great detail in 182. All right, so I want to wrap up chapter one by discussing the tree of life, which used to be called, but now it's actually, you can see it's more of a web of life, because we're seeing that all species, based on the ability to sequence the genome of different species, that life on this planet is interconnected, sort of like a spider web. So you can see that we have multiple characteristics from other organisms, and you can see that the main, for example, prokaryotic species, the bacteria, the archaea, and the eukarya, are linked together from an ancestral species. Taxonomy, classification, again, will be discussed in 182 in great detail, but I do want to cover, just to let you know, and you've probably seen this in high school, the different domains, the three, the basic bacteria, the prokaryotic domains are the bacteria and the archaea species. And remember that prokaryotes means before the nucleus. So we have no membrane-bound organelles in those species. And then the eukaryotic species have a nucleus. So eukarya pretty much translates to a true nucleus. And you can see the groups that fall under there, or what we call the supergroups, the protists, the fungi, the plants, and finally our species, the animal kingdom. All right, so you can see the different examples of the eukaryotes supergroups right here: the protists, the plants, fungi, and the animals. And again, we're going to be talking about this in great detail in 182. Taxonomy basically is the study of grouping organisms into progressively smaller and small groups that are more closely related to each other evolutionarily, so that you can link the common characteristics between them, and then you're able to name those species. So then we have what's known as the binomial nomenclature, the genus species. I do want to go back to the Web of Life, and I want to apologize. I misspoke. These are the two prokaryotic groups right here, the bacteria and archaea, and obviously the eukaryotic species, which have the nucleus, and the bacteria and archaea, which do not. So you can see that they are linked via a common ancestor. So basically, what I want you to do in preparation for the exam in chapter 1, just be able to define these terms, okay? And then these are the concepts that you need to know in preparation using the study guide and being able to answer the questions here, working together to come up with a plan of attack for the exam, all right? So that is chapter 1, and I will see you in a bit for chapter 2.